All right, imagine this. You've poured your heart and soul into a project, maybe a big personal goal, or, even just a really challenging conversation. You've pictured it going well, you've put in the hours, and then
Yeah.
just thud, it all falls apart. Maybe you didn't get that promotion, or the product launch kind of flocked, or the conversation just went completely sideways. That gut punch feeling, right? That sense of being totally overwhelmed, like maybe it was all for nothing. Welcome to your deep dive. Based on the really insightful sources you've shared with us about resilience and growth, we're diving into what your material calls blessed failures. It's a key part of this bulletproof series you're exploring. See, being truly bulletproof, it isn't just about bouncing back, right?
Yeah, not at all.
It's more about actively turning those difficulties to your advantage, finding ways to grow stronger from them, not just, recover. So our mission today really is to transform how you perceive setbacks, to help you move past that initial gut punch feeling and actually find the hidden value. Use them as like powerful stepping stones instead of just dead ends.
Absolutely. And that word blessed is key here. It isn't just about getting back to where you were before without lasting damage. It's really about actively extracting a gift, something valuable you wouldn't have received otherwise. It's a subtle shift, from I survived that to I actually thrived because of that specific challenge.
Mm.
These failures, they can genuinely unlock entirely new paths, maybe even better ones, that pure, uninterrupted success just never would have revealed.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this fear we all seem to carry around, failure.
Yeah.
Our culture is so, well, competition driven. It's constantly pushing us to be the best, the fastest, the most successful, and that creates this powerful pressure, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Society often labels people who don't quite hit the mark, and that leads to this really deep sense of shame. But how do you see that playing out, specifically in how people then, internalize those setbacks? Does it go beyond just being labeled a loser?
Yeah, that's a really crucial distinction. What often gets missed is how deeply individuals don't just feel the setback, but they actually start to identify with it. It stops being just a failed project. Suddenly they become a failure. They kind of forget everything else they're capable of. Their whole sense of self-worth can just collapse onto that one single event. Think of it like an adult getting really angry at a child for breaking a glass. Now, the anger isn't really at the child's core personality, is it? It's probably at the broken glass itself, or maybe the carelessness, the disobedience. But it's this tricky wiring in our brains. We tend to fuse the action, the event, with who we are, instead of just seeing it as an action, a broken glass that can be cleaned up and learned from.
Right. And when we're caught up in that emotional whirlwind, that fear, we often assume we see the whole picture immediately. So we jump to these huge conclusions about the overall outcome based on just one setback. Our fear just completely hides any valuable lessons, any new knowledge that the failure might actually contain. It really is like wearing blinders. So this raises a really important question. How do we typically define failure anyway? Usually it's seen as the opposite of success, right? Or simply not reaching the goal. That traditional view just locks us into this either-or mindset. You either succeed or you fail. That's it. End of story.
That either or thinking is so deeply ingrained, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if we try to embrace this and yes mindset you mentioned,
Yeah.
what's the biggest mental block people still face? Even when looking at something like an Olympic silver medal, achieving second place is an immense success. Objectively, it's incredible. It's not a failure just because it wasn't gold. But that either or trap can still somehow diminish that achievement in our minds. And if we keep viewing these moments only through the lens of fear, we just miss the opportunities that are right there, staring us in the face.
Reminds me of that movie Free Guy. You need the right glasses to actually see the opportunities that are already all around you. Otherwise, you're just blinded by the fear, missing everything. It's literally about changing your perception.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does this all mean for how failure actually acts as a catalyst for growth? First off, failure is fundamentally a signal, right?
Exactly.
It tells us things didn't quite turn out as planned or as they should have. It indicates a need for intervention, for a change. But it doesn't necessarily mean we need to chuck the whole idea out the window. The source material puts it so well. One sign is not a sign, but multiple signals indicate a clear need for action.
Yeah, and that's why those early stumbles, those initial failures, are particularly valuable. They can save you from much bigger losses down the road. They provide timely feedback, a chance to adjust. In a way, they're actually worth celebrating because catching something early can save significant resources, time, energy, prevent massive problems later on. So every failure really is a good opportunity for a change of direction. Instead of just blindly pushing forward down a path that's clearly problematic, you can actually go back to the drawing board, recalibrate, but keep your eye on the main goal.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
If failure is the signal, like you said, does that mean breakthroughs are actually impossible without it? It sounds almost counterintuitive, but is it really true that there's no development, no breakthrough without failure?
Precisely. It's a fundamental truth, I think, but it's often hidden because we just hate feeling uncomfortable. Failure forces you out of your comfort zone. It pushes you into situations where new solutions have to be found. You can't really innovate or grow significantly if you're always doing the same thing, staying where it's safe. That friction, that challenge, that's the prerequisite for something genuinely new to emerge.
And critically, it's so important to remember this. Failure is not a personality trait.
That's absolutely
You
true.
are not the failure. While taking responsibility for what went wrong is important, of course, identifying yourself with the failure is incredibly harmful. Think about Edison, right?
Yeah.
His pursuit of the light bulb. He had countless so-called failures before he succeeded. But he saw each one as just a step in his exploration, a data point. It wasn't a reflection of his personal identity. He just learned another way not to do it. Okay, so when we are confronted with a setback, how do we actually navigate it in the moment? First, let's talk about what not to do. Don't fall into what the source calls false optimism. Just slapping on those pink glasses and repeating mantras that don't genuinely come from your heart. That doesn't really help.
No, it doesn't. And just as important, don't try to ignore your negative feelings. Those bad feelings, the disappointment, the frustration, they're valid. They should be acknowledged. The goal isn't to pretend they aren't there, but maybe to gently step back from their overwhelming influence so they don't paralyze you and stop you from moving forward.
Okay, so acknowledging the feelings, avoiding false positivity. What should we do then? Interpret the signs. That seems key. Failures rarely just happen out of the blue, do they?
Very rarely.
There are almost always prior indicators, little signals that, if we'd paid attention, could have guided adjustments earlier on in work processes, relationships, maybe market strategy. It's about learning to listen to those whispers before they become, shouts.
Exactly. And you also need to pinpoint the intervention points. Failure isn't usually one single monolithic event. There are often specific areas, specific moments or decisions where changes can be made to lessen the damage or, crucially, learn from the situation. And, of course, the big one, analyze what went wrong afterwards. Really dig into it to avoid repeating the same mistakes. This is absolutely crucial for long-term growth and for truly becoming more bulletproof.
So we've talked about spotting those signals, finding the intervention points, but sometimes it's not just about what went wrong, but where it went wrong in the grand scheme of things. And that's where this framework of the 3 levels plus 1 of failure really comes in handy, I think. First, we have the tactical level. This is all about the how we view failures of execution.
Yeah.
Can you give us a quick real-world example of that? Something maybe beyond just being lazy with details?
Sure. Imagine a brilliant startup, great product, clear vision. The what and why are totally solid. But maybe their website constantly crashes during peak traffic times because they didn't build robust enough systems. That's a tactical breakdown. They failed on the how of execution, maybe not stress testing servers enough or cutting corners on the infrastructure build. It's not a bad product idea. It's a flawed process in bringing it to life.
Okay, that makes sense. Poor execution of a good idea. Then there's the next level up, the strategic level, the what.
Right. These are failures where you essentially chose the wrong path to begin with. Your why might be clear, your how, your execution might even be decent, but the chosen strategy itself, the what you decided to do, is simply ineffective for reaching your goals. You know why you're doing something, maybe you even know how to do it well, but you picked the wrong what in the first place. The core plan was flawed.
And then we get to the highest level, the vision level, the
Yeah.
big WIY.
Yeah, this is about a lack of vision or having the wrong why. This happens when you haven't defined a clear, compelling direction for yourself, or maybe you're chasing a vision that doesn't actually fulfill you. Perhaps it's someone else's vision. When you don't truly understand your deeper motivations, your core why, it often leads to what the source calls life failure and bitterness. It's that profound sense of emptiness, even if you achieve what looks like external success. Something's missing at the core.
And then there's the fourth level mentioned, often overlooked, the opportunity level, the WHO in a sense.
Right. This relates more to those external factors, things like where you were born, the inherent opportunities or lack thereof in your environment. Now, while the first three levels, tactical, strategic, vision, are largely within your direct control or at least influence,
Hmm.
the opportunity level is less so. It's important to acknowledge it, but our primary focus for growth, for becoming bulletproof, should really be on mastering those first three. Those are the levers you can actively pull.
All right, let's talk about something nobody really loves: discomfort. Failure is uncomfortable, period.
Hmm.
And, as you're explaining all this, I keep thinking back to that gut punch feeling I described right at the start. It's just so hard in that raw moment to see any blessing, isn't it? How do you even begin to shift that immediate, visceral, emotional reaction?
That's precisely why understanding the necessity of discomfort is so critical. It's not about liking it, it's about recognizing its role. This discomfort, it's actually a prerequisite for growth, for developing flexibility. If you only ever operate within your comfort zone where everything feels easy, you'll just keep doing the same things over and over.
Right, no change.
Exactly. Real progress requires leaning into that discomfort, pushing beyond your current boundaries. It's fundamental for moving forward, for being truly flexible, for actually bouncing back stronger, not just the same. The discomfort is often the signal that you're right on the edge of learning something important.
And this is where we can really reimagine what FAIL stands for. Instead of seeing it as something negative, final, think of it as first attempt in learning.
That reframing is incredibly powerful, I think, because it emphasizes that failures aren't endpoints. They're just initial steps in the learning process. They're literally part of the journey, not a deviation from it.
Okay, so how do we put all of this into practice in our own lives? We've got some practical exercises for you, the listener, to try. First one, map your failures and learnings. Actually list out some recent failures or difficulties you faced, especially related to your current big goals or endeavors. Then, for each one, consciously identify, what did I learn through this? And importantly, what positive things did this failure bring into my life? Maybe it was new people, different relationships, unexpected insights, or new situations you wouldn't have encountered otherwise. This really helps avoid that extreme all-or-nothing thinking.
Yeah, it forces you to look for the nuances. Okay, second exercise. Analyze your current difficulties. Pinpoint any struggles you're facing right now, big or small. Then try to extract the hidden benefit. Ask yourself, what valuable lesson might I miss out on if this difficulty just magically disappeared right now? For instance, maybe a failed public speaking gig leads you to finally take that speaking course you've been putting off.
Or it opens up a writing opportunity you'd never have considered.
Exactly. What positive things, perhaps subtle things, is this current difficulty actually bringing into your life or teaching you?
And finally, the third part, commit to your goal. Take a moment and consider, what would I actually give up if I threw in the towel right now? What important goals would become totally unattainable if I didn't persevere through this current challenge? Really connect with that deeper purpose again. These exercises, they're all designed to help you consciously switch into opportunity mode when you're facing those inevitable setbacks. They're like your personal toolkit for starting to see the blessings and the failures.
Ultimately, yeah, the core message is pretty clear when you look at it this way. Failures are just building blocks on your path. They can serve either as obstacles that stop you or as steps that lift you higher. And the difference really comes down to your chosen approach, your perspective.
So as you go about your week, here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over. If success is simply defined as avoiding failure at all costs, what profound lessons, what opportunities for growth are you choosing to miss out on? Lessons that could actually make you genuinely more bulletproof in the long run?